They said no maid ever lasted in that house, not one. The gate changed into grand, the mansion breathtaking. However, inside, inort, turned into a battlefield. At the coronary heart of it turned into Madame Adesuwa Okafor. Stunning, polished, and deadly along with her words. She slapped without warning, she yelled without mercy, and her insults should cut deeper than a whip. She had damaged 9 maids in 6 months. A few ran away crying. A few left before morning. One jumped the back fence barefoot. Then Aminata Bello walked in, darkish, quiet, wearing nothing, however, a nylon bag and the hearth in her eyes. She wasn't there to run. She wasn't there to thrill. She had an ill daughter, nothing left to lose. And a weapon Madame Adesuwa had by no means confronted before. What Aminata did in that house didn't just trade her existence, it broke the unbreakable Madame Adesuwa. The mansion on Bishop Adama Force, Banana Island, was the kind of vicinity human beings slowed down to stare at. A towering black gate, a flawless driveway, vehicles so polished they stuck the sun like mirrors. But beyond that ideal exterior, the air was heavy, the staff moved like shadows, the cleaner averted eye contact. Even Mama Ireti, a chef who had once cooked for presidents, measured each step as though afraid to disturb the silence. That silence had a source. One person, Madame Adesuwa Okafor, some referred to as her Madame Ice, others Madame Perfection. And when she exceeded, older team of workers muttered a name in hushed tones, one they dared now not say aloud in her presence. At 33, Madame Adesuwa gave the look of she had stepped out of a style mag, tall, gala-skinned, and always dressed like she had a pink carpet waiting. Even if she changed into handiest going to the garden, her fragrance lingered lengthy after she left the room. Her words even longer. She didn't simply supply instructions, she commanded. She didn't simply area. She struck with a slap or a sentence sharp sufficient to go away invisible wounds. On this residence, her opinion turned into law. And in just 1/2 a year, 9 maids had walked out beneath that identical black gate, a few in tears, a few in silence, one without her shoes. The residence itself wasn't the problem. The work wasn't the problem. The problem changed into her, Madame Adesuwa. She became Chief Olufemi Okafor's second spouse. The primary had died many years in the past, leaving a silence inside the mansion that changed into never without a doubt crammed. Chief Olufemi Okafor became a person who carried power like a 2D skin, nearly 60, with silver streaks in his hair, to thriving oil organizations and greater homes than the majority-owned pairs of footwear. Humans spoke his name anywhere. Of course, they did. But what they whispered approximately the most changed into the maids until Aminata arrived. No person said hiya. Nobody requested her call. Due to the fact they were tired of mastering names that changed every week. The housekeeper really pointed to a mop and muttered, "Begin with the marble floors. Madame is coming downstairs." Aminata did not argue. She tied her headscarf, picked up the mop, and started out to work. She had one reason for being there. Her daughter Zainab, inside and outside of the hospital. The payments had been piling excessive, threatening to drown her. Aminata whispered to herself, "Simply endure it. Even if they insult you, endure it." 3 months it's taken with Zainab. She turned into still wiping the middle rug when she heard it. Click on clack, heels, sharp ones, then silence. Aminata appeared up, and there she turned into Madame Adesuwa, status at the pinnacle of the stairs in a wine-colored silk gown, holding a cup of tea like she owned the complete world. Madame Adesuwa's eyes swept over the spotless marble, the glittering chandelier, then down to Aminata, still on her knees with the mop. "You," she said. Her voice like ice cubes dropped in a glass. "Stand up." Aminata rose slowly, lowering her eyes out of respect but not out of fear. "What is your name?" Madame asked. "Aminata, Madame." "From where?" "From Ibadan." Madame sipped her tea, her lips curling in slight disgust. "Another village. Girl, they keep sending me bush girls who don't understand class. Let's see how long you last." Her words landed like stones in the silence. The other staff froze, waiting for the slap, waiting for the explosion. But Aminata only bowed her head. "Yes, madam." For a second, just a second, Adesuwa's eyes narrowed. Something about the girl's stillness, her refusal to shrink or cry, unsettled her. But she turned sharply, silk robe flowing, and walked away. The first week was war. Madame criticized everything. You call this clean? My reflection should blind me from this glass. A slap when the tea was too hot, a hiss when the curtains weren't perfectly aligned. The other staff whispered, "She won't last." None of them ever do. But Aminata never shouted back. She never cried where anyone could see. At night, when the house was asleep, she went to the staff quarters, pulled out a small photo of Zainab tubes running from her little arms, and whispered, "For you, my child, for you, I will survive this." By the second week, something strange began to happen. Madame Adesuwa noticed the little things. The way Aminata polished the silver until it gleamed like new. The way she never broke a plate. The way she moved, quietly but left everywhere better than she found it. One morning, Madame entered the dining hall, ready to scream about the placement of the cutlery, but stopped. The table looked like something out of a five-star hotel, napkins folded like swans, plates sparkling, the flowers fresh. "Who did this?" she demanded. The housekeeper stammered. "Ah, Aminata, madam." Madame's lips tightened. "Bring her to me." Aminata came, wiping her hands nervously on her wrapper. Madame looked her up and down. "Where did you learn this?" "My mother was a caterer, madame. She taught me small." Adesuwa's eyes lingered on her. She expected fear, desperation, excuses, but she saw calmness, and something else, strength. Adesuwa muttered, "Do it again tomorrow." That was the first day she didn't slap Aminata. By the third week, Chief Olufemi returned from a business trip abroad. His arrival was always thunderous, the sound of car engines, bodyguards at the gate, staff scrambling into perfect lines. He entered with his usual air of quiet power, gray hair shining, egbata flowing, phone pressed to his ear as three men trailed behind with his briefcases. The house seemed to breathe when he stepped in. Madame Adesuwa glided toward him, her smile practiced, her perfume already wrapping around him before she reached Femi. "Welcome," she purred, kissing his cheek. He nodded absently, his sharp eyes scanning the room. That was when he noticed Aminata standing near the corner with a tray. Their eyes met briefly. His lingered a second too long. Aminata quickly lowered hers, gripping the tray tighter. That night, at dinner, Olufemi's voice broke the silence. "Who arranged this table?" The staff stiffened, afraid it was wrong. But his tone was curious, not angry. Madame answered proudly, "The new girl, Amin." Olufemi's eyes flickered again, toward her. "Good, very good." Adesuwa's fork paused mid-air. She had been waiting for him to scold the maid, not praise her. Her jaw tightened, but she forced a smile. "Yes, she has potential." From then on, Chief Olufemi's eyes seemed to find Aminata more often, when she poured his tea, when she cleaned the library, when she passed quietly with laundry. He never said much, just small nods, small smiles, but Adesuwa noticed. Oh, she noticed. The house began to shift. The other staff whispered that Aminata had something the rest didn't. Not beauty, though she had a quiet kind of glow. Not boldness, for she was humble. It was her spirit, unbroken. Where others bent under Madame's fire, she stood firm, calm as a rock in the river, and slowly, the unbreakable Madame began to crack. By the fourth week, the tension in the mansion was no longer hidden. Madame Adesuwa watched her husband's eyes follow Aminata, watched how his voice softened when he addressed her, how the staff seemed drawn to her calm presence. Every kindness shown to Aminata felt like a slap to Adesuwa's pride. One evening, after dinner, Adesuwa cornered Aminata in the hallway. Her silk gown shimmered, but her eyes were sharp as blades. "So, this is your plan," she hissed. "To crawl into my house, to play the saint, and to catch my husband's eye." Aminata froze, the tray still in her hands. "No, madame. I came here only to work. I need money for my daughter's hospital bills." But Adesuwa laughed coldly, a sound like glass shattering. "That's what they all say. But none of them were clever enough to last this long. You think you're special." Aminata bowed her head. "I think only of survival, madame." Her calmness, her refusal to fight, only deepened the crack in Adesuwa's armor. For the first time, the great Madame felt powerless, not against insults, not against rebellion, but against silence. Days passed. Chief Olufemi grew curious about Aminata's life. One night, he found her in the garden after her chores, sitting quietly with her daughter's photograph in her hands. "Whose picture?" he asked. She startled, rising quickly. "My daughter Zainab. She is ill. That is why I endure everything here. For her." Olufemi looked at the worn photo, then at the woman before him, strong, resilient, carrying pain without bitterness. Something stirred in him, something even wealth could not buy. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a check, and pressed it into her hand. "Take this, for Zainab's treatment." Tears filled Aminata's eyes. She knelt, trembling. "Thank you, sir, thank you." Adesuwa watched from the balcony above, fury twisting in her chest. That night, she smashed a vase in her room, screaming at the walls, but nothing silenced the truth. Her power was no longer absolute. Within 2 months, Zainab's health began to improve. Aminata stayed in the mansion, not out of desperation, but out of choice. The staff no longer whispered of fear, but of respect. Even Madame Adesuwa, once the storm of the house, grew quieter. She still wore her silk gowns, still held her head high, but something in her fire had dimmed, because for the first time, someone she could not break had entered her world. End. Aminata, just a maid with nothing but strength in her heart, had broken the unbreakable.